Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today, PCG just filed a current report on Form 8, and I am seeing a major shareholder vote outcome to unpack. Quick note, this is not financial advice, just my take on public filings for educational purposes. The big story here is how shareholders voted on key leadership and company proposals at their recent meeting. Alright, so we are looking at a Form 8K, which is basically a report for big, unexpected events. In this case, it is detailing the results of the joint annual shareholder meetings for P.G.E Corporation and its subsidiary Pacific Gas and Electric Company. This filing tells us exactly how shareholders voted on important matters. We're focusing on two main companies here, PG&E Corporation and Pacific Gas and Electric Company. They held their annual shareholder meetings on May 21st of 2026. Think of these meetings as the annual check, in where shareholders get to have a say on how the company is run. Now, before we dive into the votes, let's quickly see what kind of securities are registered and traded for these companies. For PG&E Corporation, their common stock trades under the ticker PCG on the New York Stock Exchange. They also have various preferred stocks registered on different exchanges, like Nice American LLC for things like their preferred stock with different dividend rates and redemption options. Pacific Gas and Electric Company also has its own set of securities. And it is important to distinguish their operations and shareholder interests from the parent PG&E Corporation. This filing covers votes for both entities. The main point of this filing is item 5.07, which is all about the submission of matters to a vote of security holders. This means we're going to see the actual results of how shareholders cast their ballots. Let's start with PG&E Corporation. Shareholders were asked to vote on three main things. First up, the election of directors. This is always a big one. Shareholders vote to put people on the board of directors who will oversee the company's strategy and management. Looking at the numbers for Rajat, Bahri, for example, there were over 1.8 billion votes in favor, with only about 6 million against. That is a pretty clear endorsement. It looks like all the director nominees, including names like Cheryl F. Campbell, Leo P. Denault, and Patricia K. Poppe, received a very strong majority of votes in favor. This means the shareholders are comfortable with the current leadership team guiding the company. The number of broker non-votes, which are shares held by brokers that owners didn't give voting instructions for, was around 94 million across the board, which is pretty standard. Next, shareholders voted on executive compensation. This is often called a say-on-pay vote, and it is advisory, meaning the board doesn't have to follow it, but it is a strong signal of shareholder sentiment. For this proposal, PG&E Corporation saw over 1.6 billion votes in favor, against about 168 million opposed. This indicates that while there was some disagreement, the majority of shareholders approved of how the executives are being paid. Finally, shareholders ratified the appointment of Deloitte and Touch LLP as the independent auditor for 2026. This is a standard vote to ensure the company's financial statements are being audited by a reputable independent firm. The numbers show overwhelming approval here too, with nearly 1.8 billion votes in favor. This suggests shareholders trust the auditor chosen to review the company's books. Now let's switch gears to the utility itself, Pacific Gas and Electric Company. They also had their own set of votes. Similarly, the election of directors for Pacific Gas and Electric Company also saw strong support. For Director Rajat Bahri, there were over 266 million votes in favor, against a very small number of against votes. This pattern held true for all the director nominees on this side as well, including names like William L. Smith and Benjamin F. Wilson. It shows that the utility shareholders are also content with the proposed board members. The broker non-votes here were around 4.3 million. The executive compensation vote for the utility also passed comfortably. Over 266 million shares were voted in favor, with only about 233,000 against. This also signals shareholder approval for the compensation packages put in place for the utility's leadership. And just like the parent company, shareholders of Pacific Gas and Electric Company overwhelmingly ratified the appointment of Deloitte and Touch LLP as their independent auditor. Over 270 million votes were cast in favor of this. It is common for both parent and subsidiary to use the same auditor. And the results here show shareholders are comfortable with that decision for 2026. And at the end of the filing, we see the signatures of key executives certifying that the information provided is accurate to the best of their knowledge. John R. Simon for PG&E Corporation and Brian M. Wong for Pacific Gas and Electric Company signed off on May 26, 2026, just a few days after the meetings. Overall, the results from these annual meetings show a strong alignment between the shareholders and the management of both PG&E Corporation and Pacific Gas and Electric Company. The director elections passed with flying colours, and the advisory votes on executive pay and auditor ratification were also overwhelmingly approved. This suggests a stable environment for the companies heading into the rest of 2026, with shareholders seemingly confident in the direction and leadership. The major takeaway is the clear endorsement of the current board and the company's compensation and auditing practices, indicating shareholder trust and a lack of major disputes at this time. Oh, and the research tools I actually use are linked in the description. They help keep this channel going. That is my take. Stay decoded. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description.